Well, hello, life groups, and welcome to What Does Love Look Like? Life Group Study Week 1. You may remember in September and October this year, we did a preaching series called Here's What We Do Know. So in the face of economic and health insecurity, we said there's a lot we don't know at the moment, but here's what we do know. And you may remember we covered a lot of different topics. We covered we are chosen by God, we know God, we've been saved by faith through grace. We looked at we've been brought together by Christ as one body, and we looked at the fact that God has big plans for his body, the church. And you may remember we looked at the fact that Ephesians was a letter written by Paul to a church that he planted in Ephesus, and that story is covered in Acts chapter 19. And around 8 years later, Paul is now from lockdown, he's been put under house arrest, is writing this letter to the church that he started in Ephesus. And we covered the first 3.5 chapters of Ephesians in that series, Here's What We Do Know. But in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 14, there's a transition, if you like. It's often kind of Paul's method is he spends the first half of a letter unpacking some big doctrine, and then he spends the second half unpacking some implications or outworkings of those big doctrines. And so we decided to launch a new series for the second half of Ephesians. So the first half was Here's What We Do Know, and the second half is What Does Love Look Like? And on Sunday we covered the kind of idea that culturally the idea of wanting to be loved and loving people is very acceptable. Everyone's kind of happy with that. Think Oprah. But the plan is to kind of use Ephesians 3 verse 14 to the end of Ephesians to kind of define some of what Christian love looks like, what makes it different to normal everyday love that everyone experiences. And so this series will take us right up to February with a Christmas break, and we're going to look at a whole bunch of different topics. We're going to see that love looks like knowing you're loved, love looks like committing to a community, a new way of life, being careful how we live, being filled with the Spirit, doing family life well, serving, and it looks like a spiritual struggle. And we started the series on Sunday by saying, what does love look like? Well, it looks like knowing you're loved. And we unpacked Paul's prayer in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 14 to 21. Why don't you pause me and read this out together? Okay, and one of the kind of key themes that I brought out on Sunday was the idea of the power of love. The power of love, a force from above. Hope you like that. And there are 3 kind of mentionings of the power of God's love that Paul is praying for. And we looked at the whole idea that Christian love isn't kind of a way of thinking or a way of life that you try on ultimately. It's about a power, the power of the love of Christ that comes inside you and transforms you into a different person. And here's the first question for you. One of 5 little questions or tasks. What else sets Christian love apart? So we said on Sunday, look, Christian love is different from everyday love because it's about Jesus. It's about knowing that you're loved by Jesus, and actually out of an awareness of that horizontal love, vertically loving other people for Jesus. So it comes from Jesus and it's for Jesus. But why don't you discuss as a group what else sets Christian love apart? What makes it different to everyone's experience of love? Okay, second one. Why don't you describe a time in your life when the love of Jesus has become real to you? You may remember I shared the story of the young person, perhaps not the best, praying that God would specifically answer a very precise prayer to reveal his love to him. But when in your life has the love of Jesus become more than just an intellectual concept? When has it become a real kind of experiential, if you like, a real moment where you think, wow, he actually loves me. And why don't you describe that, a few of you? Okay, the next question is, or task, is to spend some time imagining with God a visualization of your own for the width, height, length and depth of the love of God. You may remember I shared the visualization of imagining you're on a beach and that each grain of sand was an expression of God's love towards you, and we had some time imagining how wide and long and deep it is. Why don't you have a moment of quiet just to see if you, with God, can dream up and imagine some kind of visualization of his extravagant, amazing love for you. Okay, the next one. Do you have a story of Christian love being expressed that went beyond your imagining? So you may remember I shared the story of the Christian husband who, although initially very angry at his wife for stepping out on him and the kids and having an affair, that actually through an experience of God's love, he welcomed her back and raised the child that she'd had in that adultery. I wonder if you in your life have seen with your own eyes, or witnessed even in your own life, just an expression of love that was beyond your imagining, beyond that which you could explain apart from the love of Christ doing something among you. Okay, and then finally, this is a beautiful prayer. Ephesians 3:14-21. It's a great prayer to pray over people. If you don't know what to pray, grab this up and pray it for your group. And why don't you take a few moments, and a few of you read this prayer out for you guys as a group over one another. Hopefully that's been helpful. God bless you all. Hope you have a great week.